Yesterday it was confirmed that after a brief battle with cancer, Kevin Conroy, the definitive voice of Batman for the last 30 years, passed away at the age of 66. And this is one of the few celebrity deaths that has emotionally gut-punched me this hard. Come to think of it, this might be the most emotional a celebrity death has made me. It's not that I don't get sad when celebrities pass away, it's not that I don't respect the body of work that they leave behind and appreciate the accomplishments that they made while they were here, and it's not that I'm not disappointed that I won't get to see their talents again. It's just that when a celebrity dies, I usually don't feel emotionally close enough to them to feel like I am truly mourning them. I feel like that is a privilege for their friends and family to grieve that loss. In the case of Kevin Conroy, though, it doesn't just feel like another actor who has passed on. Kevin Conroy, to me, wasn't just my childhood Batman. To me, he was Batman. Kevin was an inspiration to me not only as a kid, but as I transitioned into adulthood. His role as Batman inspired many of the life decisions that I've made, and I was not ready to say goodbye. I contemplated for pretty much the whole day yesterday if I even wanted to address this in a video, and to be honest with you, this is take 20 of this video. I'm having a really hard time getting through it, but I feel like I owe it to Kevin. I never got to meet the man, but I want to put out something that addresses how inspired I feel because of him, and how much of an impact he made on me, someone who he never got the chance to meet. At face value, Kevin was pretty much considered by everyone to be the definitive voice of Batman. He was never putting on a show when he was Batman. He was so authentic. He brought a sound to the voice that didn't feel fake. It didn't feel like it was added gruffness like Christian Bale. It didn't feel like a voice modulator like Ben Affleck. It felt real. It felt like a real human voice that was full of pain and fear, but was putting on a stoic pretense, a facade. His interpretation of Batman felt so layered, and Kevin clearly understood the character. Anytime you hear him in interviews, he understood why his iteration of Batman would not kill, because he valued the sanctity of human life. Kevin felt the inspiration of Batman. He loved that the character was so dedicated to making others not ever feel the pain that he himself felt. Despite his declining health, Kevin also made a point to show up to as many conventions as he could. Everyone who's met him has had nothing but nice things to say. All of the people he worked with loved him. All of the people who met him loved him. He was so good to so many, and he really left his impact on the world. People know Kevin as a happy and friendly individual who did right by everyone he knew. Now, I'm going to share a story that I normally don't share on my channel, not because it's super deep or private, but because that isn't really the intention of this channel, but I feel like it's relevant here. And so here's just the story of someone who Kevin never met, but inspired greatly. Like I mentioned earlier, Kevin was my childhood Batman. I knew him every time I turned on Batman the Animated Series or Batman Beyond. But as I started getting older, as I started getting into that transition into adulthood, as I was going to middle school and high school and graduating and starting to go to college, two things were happening during that very important stage of life. The first was that the Batman Arkham games were releasing during that time frame, and also my family was going through a very real and very heartbreaking crisis. My dad moved out, and then he and my mom went through a very rocky divorce. They both started dating other people, which was very awkward for me, and it was also very isolating. Even though I had good relationships then, like I do now with my younger brother and my younger sister, there was enough of an age gap, and as the oldest, I felt like I had to be the one to lead them through this difficult experience, especially as my parents started dating other people and had less attention to give to us and more attention to give to their new significant others. I had friends, but they were often busy with extracurricular activities or other friendships. I got stabbed in the back. I got rejected. I went through all of the hard things that any teenager goes through, and unfortunately, I also went through something that a lot of teens also go through, which is the destruction of their own family, the place that they are supposed to feel the safest, and I felt so alone. Like I mentioned, I felt like I was in charge of leading my siblings through this. I felt like my parents no longer had the time or energy to help raise me because they both had to be working. They always felt like they were at war with each other. And when they did have interest to give to people, it was to new people they were trying to date. For a while, I became deeply depressed. As my grades in school started declining rapidly, I just really felt down, and I didn't know where to turn. So I turned to video games, and I know that parents tell you that video games suck and they're gonna rot your brain, but to be completely honest, video games are kind of what raised me for that last little stretch of my childhood and teenage years, so, there's that. The Batman Arkham games are probably what I returned to the most. There were other games that I frequented. The Last of Us comes to mind, the BioShock games come to mind, but the Batman Arkham series really spoke to me. And one of the primary reasons for that was Kevin. Now, don't get me wrong, the Batman Arkham games are awesome on their own, and Mark Hamill does a hell of a job as Joker. He is so good. But the production value of the games are great. The villain rosters are super exciting. The gameplay flows super naturally. But Kevin brought something to the role that I've mentioned earlier. He brought layers and emotions to the character that weren't present in the writing. They relied on his performance to really capture the spirit of Bruce Wayne, and he did. Batman in the Arkham games is a tortured soul who has to watch over the citizens of Gotham. He is constantly thrown into harrowing situations that he does not want to be involved in, but forces his way through them anyway, accomplishes what he needs to, and saves everyone that he can along the way. No matter what is thrown at him or how many times something is thrown at him, Batman in the Arkham series never gives up, and he never loses sight of his morals. This was exactly the message that I needed at this stage of life. It gave me the strength to keep going because I saw Batman doing it in these games. And while I was not in a supermax security prison that was housed in a city block while I was poisoned with Joker's blood, I was dealing with those feelings of isolation and feeling overwhelmed, having a test due the next day at school that I wasn't prepared for, having to swap houses from going back and forth between parents, having to make sure that my brother was getting to sleep on time because a parent was out with their new significant other. Seeing Batman handle difficult situations in fiction made it possible for me to handle difficult situations in real life. He brought a stoic demeanor to the games, but there was so much pain and so much fear layered underneath those, and I felt myself in his performance. I felt those same feelings, but seeing Batman be able to overcome them and be able to handle them with dignity and with confidence gave me the strength to do so as well. His courage, his resilience, and his lack of reluctance to solve problems inspired me so much. And so losing Kevin to me feels like losing Batman. It feels like losing my hero, and I wasn't ready to say goodbye. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you, Kevin. And I hope that I can put even a fraction of the light that you put into the world into it myself.